Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the third and final installment of the Bookbag Backpack Sew Along. I hope you've enjoyed it so far as much as I have. It's really been like a roller coaster ride for me. Like I said, it's the first time I'm making it, so we're all in this together. And we've made the two bag outers. So we've added the slip pocket to it. We've added the hidden zipper in there. And we've also added the straps, the shoulder straps and the short straps for the top. So the next thing we're going to do today, we're going to go on and do the strap tabs. And those are for the crossbody straps. So we're going to start with that. And we need piece F to get that going. So if you grab your piece F, which I have in front of me, should have two of those. And we need to fold the short edges in by a quarter of an inch. So if you want, you can actually draw the quarter of an inch in, or if you can eyeball it, just do whichever one is easier. So we fold that in and press. And then you fold the other end in as well, and then press. And then once you've pressed those in really nicely and they're to your satisfaction, what we will need to do is fold the piece lengthwise in half, like that. And once we've done that, like we did for the straps that we've already done, we open it up again, and then we fold the edges into the center. But unlike when we made the straps and we, after folding both ends to the center, we sort of folded the center again. We're not going to do that with this one. With this one, we just fold the sides into the center, like that. Sides into the center. Sides into the center. And we should end up with something that looks like that. So you have the raw edges showing in at the back of the tab, and the front side of the tab should be all smooth. So we're not going to do the extra fold. We're just going to leave it that way. And then we're going to take it to our machine and top stitch round the four edges. So first, make sure you've ironed, it's been properly ironed and it's all in place, it all stays in place. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take it to a sewing machine and top stitch around the four edges. So we're going to do the other one as well before we go off to the machine. And I am just using clips to hold them in place for now. And please, if you need to use the iron and the ironing board, please go ahead and do that. So we fold in half lengthwise. And then you open it up again and fold the edges into the center. And we do that for the other end as well. And we should have a finished product that looks just like the first one, with edges towards the center. And I'll take that to the ironing board and give it a good press. So edges towards the center and the front looking that way. So I'll take that to the sewing machine and then I'll be back. See you soon. Ironed that down now, and I'm going to now take it to the sewing machine to do the first one has been ironed down nicely and it's been sewn on all four sides. and top stitched all 4 sides. So I'll just go and do ahead and do the second one also. Sometimes the edges seems not to match up, so I sort of tease them into place to make it nice and neat all around the edges. And the second one is done. So trim off any excess thread that might be hanging anywhere around. And the next thing we're going to need to finish this one off is we're going to need the D-rings, or if you've got the triangular rings, we're going to need those at the moment. The triangular ring or the D-ring, we're going to need those, and we need to thread those into that. So you put your rings in through the first one, and you put the second ring, your D-ring or your triangular ring, into the second one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew as close as possible to the edge of the D-ring, just stitch down there. So if you've got your zipper foot, it'll be great to use that at this time, and so you can sew as close as possible, you know, just to the very edge of the D-ring or the triangular ring. So like I said, I'm using a 1/4 inch foot, which is pretty close. Well, not as close as a zipper foot anyway, but it's pretty close. So I'm just going to use that, and because I don't feel like changing at this time, changing my foot. So I'll just go ahead and sew that down. And then the second one, I'll sew it down as well. Try and go as close as possible as you can to the edge of the D-ring, and if you can't, that's fine. So I've sewn them down. So the D-ring is now properly secure, and if you're using a triangular ring, it should now be nice and secure. And you should have 2 pieces that look like that. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to attach our 2 strap tabs. We're going to attach them to the side gusset C. So I'm just going to go fetch my side gusset C, and I'll be right back. Have our piece C, the side gusset C, and we need the outer fabric. So we've got one in the lining fabric and we've got one in the outer. So we want the outer fabric, and we take our strap tabs that we've just created, measure down 1 inch from the top of your, measure down 1 inch from the top of your side gusset C. So that's 1 inch for me. And place the top of the side strap tab, the top of the tab itself, not the D-ring, but the top of the tab itself, 1 inch down, centralized onto the gusset, centralized onto the side gusset C, and pin it down. And we're going to eventually sew that down with a box with a cross in the middle. I'm sure by now everybody would know how to do a box with a cross in the middle, but with the amount we've already done making this bag. Okay, so that's pinned down now. So it should be, this ruler is a 1 inch ruler, so I know that I'm getting 1 inch if I just place it on. So 1 inch from the top. Yep. 1 inch down from the top, the very, very top of the side strap tab should be on the 1 inch mark, measuring downwards. And then on the other side as well, you do the same thing. Make sure it's nicely centralized. So another inch down, and your tab right slam bang in the middle, and then we pin down again. So we're going to take that to the sewing machine, and we're going to secure it with a box with a cross in the middle. And if your fabric is too thick, or you feel that your machine might struggle with doing this, you might just go straight ahead and rivet them in, and that would be okay as well. Or you can sew and then rivet. It's up to you what you want to do. So we're going to sew that down now. And stretch. Now the cross in the middle. And the first tab is done. So as you can see, the tab has been secured. So we trim off any excess thread that might be hanging about there, like they always do. And at the front as well. And then we go on to the opposite end and we do the same thing again. tried to sew on the lines that I had sewn on before. So I tried to sew along those lines as well. But if that doesn't work, it's still going to look good because nobody's going to look too closely at what you do. And the other side strap, the strap tab has been affixed to the side gusset as well. So you have them both with the D-rings or the triangular rings facing upwards, and both of them have been affixed to the side gusset on the outer fabric of the side gusset. The next thing we're going to do now is we're going to do the zip gusset, and now we're going to need our double-ended zip, the double zipper or a single zipper. It depends on which one you want to use. If you're using a single one, if you're using a single zipper, you might need to prepare your zipper by sort of sewing the open ends, both open ends. You want to sew them shut before you start. This just makes it easier while you're sewing it. And if you're going to be using the double zippered one, it's going to be a lot easier to do because you can just take off the zip tabs and put them on and then put them all back. So I will go get the zipper tab. Here are my zip gussets, all 4 of them, 2 outers and 2 linings. And like I said before, we're going to be attaching our zippers on now. So what we need to do is place our zipper, the zip gusset, face up. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to put the zipper. Now you can either leave it the way it is this way, or you can just do it singly. I'll keep those nice and safe in there. And put one strap. So you can uncouple them, put one strap with the straight edge, not the teeth edge, against the edge of your outer gusset or the zipper gusset. So I'm just going to clip these down. And then what you want to do is you want to take your lining fabric and you want to place that on top of that. All the way down. So as you can see, the zipper is sandwiched in between the outer fabric and the lining fabric, and because I'm using a detachable, the 2 zippered, I can take off the zip pulls. I'm using 2 zip pulls, so I can take off the zip pulls and install them separately. So I'm going to change the foot on my machine now to a zipper foot, so it's going to be easy for me to just run through that. I'll just change the zipper and be back. Has been attached, and we're just going to sew down. So the zipper together with the outer zipper gusset and the lining zipper gusset. make sure the zipper stays at the edge all the way through. And then we're going to work on the second zipper gusset. To prepare the second zipper gusset as well. So with the zipper facing, with the outer zipper gusset piece facing upwards, we take the zipper with the teeth facing downwards and the smooth edge against the smooth edge of our outer gusset, and we clip, well, I have a pin or clip, whichever one is easier. And then we're going to place the lining of the zipper gusset right on top of it, right sides together, and then we're going to sew it. The first one, I left it unfinished because we still have to go and press them both, wrong sides facing together, and top stitch. So I'd like to do both of those at the same time instead of doing it one at a time. So our lining, we place it right over the zip and the zipper gusset combination, and make sure that they're properly aligned. And then we take it to the sewing machine and we sew that down. I'm sewing this from the outer fabric side because my sewing machine seems to be complaining about the decoville for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I'm using the smoother part of the lining fabric to push it through, and that seems to work a lot better for me. So that has now been done. And what we now have to do is we need to take it to the sewing machine and, oh, sorry, I keep calling my ironing station my sewing machine, but it's the ironing board. And we need to press them together, wrong sides facing, sorry. Press them together like that, and then we need to top stitch. Now, because I have that bulk, I'm going to trim some of mine away, and then I'm going to sort of iron them down and bring them back to the machine to top stitch them. So I'll see you in a moment. I have successfully ironed these to submission, so they're both matching on both sides, as in the edges are matching. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch down the long edges of, just as close as to the zipper, just along the zipper there. I'm just going to top stitch. then I feed the second one through and it is. Both have been top stitched now, and so I'm going to add my zipper tabs back on to them, and then I need to make sure that both of them join together by the zipper tab, by the zipper. They measure up to 4 inches exactly. So that's the next step we're going to do now. So I've reattached my zipper tabs, and I'm just going to make sure that the width is the same width as the side gusset. So because we're still going to join these all together, so I'm going to make sure it's exactly the same width, and if it's not, I'm going to trim it to whatever the width of the side gusset is. So if you look in your instructions, it tells you exactly what the width is meant to be. So let's go on and trim it to whatever the width is meant to be, and then we'll come back and continue from there. I'm going to attach the zip gusset to the side gusset C. So we would need the zipper gusset that we've trimmed down to the width of the C gusset, and we'll start with the outer fabric one. So what we need to do is, with the right sides together of the outer fabric, so you need the outer right side facing down onto the gusset piece, you match the short ends. But what we want to do is stitch across the short ends, but we do not want to catch the lining. So what we would have to do at this point is pin the lining away from the gusset. Now, because of the way it is at the end there, you can see we cannot just sew right across. So what we're going to have to do is sew from one end and stop as close as possible to the stitch lining in there. And then we start from the other end and stop as close as possible to the stitch lining. And remember, it's still 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way through, unless otherwise specified. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew that together. And I would need to change my foot. The foot has been changed, and I'm not going to sew 3/8 of an inch down the short sides, one side first and then the other side. And sew as close as you can to the zipper stitches. And then we go to the other side and we do the same thing again. And this time I might need to start from the stitch itself, so I can actually see where the stitch is and not make a mistake. So down, down, down. And as you can see, the short end has been sewn down to the zipper, to the zipper gusset. So the side gusset and the zipper gusset are sewn down just on the short sides without having to cross over the needle, the zipper teeth at all. So we still have that tiny little hole there, which is fine for now. Then we're going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. So we go to the opposite side, make sure your D-ring or your triangular ring is out of the way. Match up the short ends like we did before. And I'm just putting pins on the clips on the side as well, just to keep them nice and straight. Then remember to keep your lining out of the way. So pin them out of the way so you can easily have access to your outer linings, both of them. And then you take it to your machine and you sew as close as you can again to the zipper stitches. And then on the other side as well, sew as close as you can to the zipper stitches and just sew from one side to the other. And the other side is done as well. So you're going to have something that looks like a C shape, like that. So the next thing we're going to do now is sew the lining together the same way as we have done with the outer, making sure we do not catch the outer, just as we've done for the when we sewed the outer, we did not catch the lining. Now we sew the lining and we do not catch the outer. So I'll go grab my lining and I'll be back. I've found my gusset lining, so we're going to attach that also to the lining, the zipper gusset lining, this one. So what we do is we match them up. And remember, we're only sewing on the short ends of those as well. So once we've matched those up, and because your D-ring is going to be on the outer gusset, it might be a bit difficult to fold it, but don't worry, it does fold out of the way. So all you need is, you just need access to be able to do that. And we're going to go to the machine now and sew that down. and you try and sew as close as possible to the stitches that are already there. This will be tricky, but it is doable. So coax it into place and stitch 3/8 of an inch. So as you can see, we've managed to do that for that. So we do that for the other side as well. Like I said, cajole or coax it into place and then stitch with a 3/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. That is done. That was a bit of a battle, but got there eventually. And now that we've done this for one side, we're going to do it for the other side as well. Yeah. So we go to the other side and we attach the gusset lining to the zipper tab gusset, to the zipper, yeah, tab gusset lining. And we make sure this is out of the way completely so we don't catch it when we're sewing. And then we sew 3/8 of an inch seam allowance right across just to where the stitches are, the zippered stitches are. And then we go to the other side and we try and stitch as close to the zipper stitch as possible. Now, as we can see, the linings are been sewn together, facing together, and the outers are facing together as well. If I can just turn it, yeah. So we can see the outers and the zippers are all, the outers and the inners are all matching. And then we go on to the next stage. Once we've turned as the gusset piece right side out facing us, what we need to do is the place where we stitched joined just there where we've stitched the outer gusset to the zipper gusset and the lining to the, we need to smoothen that out, make sure that they're nice and laying down properly, and we're going to stitch right across the top there on both sides. If you've got excess zippers within the seam, you don't need to trim them off if you don't want to, but it's not really necessary. But then we're going to go to the machine now and we're going to sew right across there. And if you've got any metal stops on your zip because you're using a pre-made zip and not one that you've put together yourself, be very careful you don't sew over any of the metal pieces or anything that's there either. So as you can see, we've stitched right across there just to hold it down. And you remember that we could not stitch over the zipper when we were doing both sides, but now we've closed that little hole up because we've stitched right across the top. And we're going to do that for the other side too. Now for the part that I find a bit daunting, but I'm sure that it's going to be really, really fun to do. We're now going to attach the gusset to the outers. So I'm going to go grab my outers and I'll be right back. I'm going to attach the gusset to the outer bag pieces, and you have your gusset, and you only need to, for now we're only going to work with the outer piece of it. So if you can, try and keep the lining gusset out of the way. If you haven't already done so, find the center of your zipper gusset and clip it within the seam allowance, and find the center of your gusset, of your outer gusset as well, and clip it within the seam allowance. And then you'll find the center of the outer main A, find the center as well, and clip within the seam allowance where the center should be. And what we're going to do now is we're going to align the gusset pieces to the bags themselves. So we start from the zipper end, and it might be tricky at the corners, so I always tend to sort of snip my corners into submission so you can just put little tiny snips along the edge so that it's easier for them to go around the curve. So move your lining gusset out of the way, pin them out of the way if necessary, and then we begin to align our pieces together. So like I said, once you've found the center, align all the centers together. And then fit the rest of the gusset all around the bag. You might need lots and lots of pins, but don't let that deter you. And we're going to go around and do that, and I'll show you once I've had that done. When we have successfully sort of mastered it and made sure it's all gone round properly, as you can see, it's all gone round. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way round, and try and keep your lining piece out of the way as you're going round. And we're going to sew all the way around it. And is there any other thing I need to tell you? No, that should be it. And make sure that the gusset is facing upwards when you do it, because it's a lot easier when you do it that way than the other way around. So I'm going to, and yeah, what I wanted to say was, you might find it useful to use a walking foot if you've got it, because of the bulk, and it just helps all the fabric glide through easily. So if you do have a walking foot, now might be the time to go dig it out and to use it. And I'll get back to you once I decide if I'm using a walking foot or a regular foot. Me, myself, and we've decided we're not changing to a walking foot after all, so we're just going to use a regular foot. 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're just going to sew all the way around. Let us go. Good luck. Everything seems to be going nicely. And because I've used really thick interfacing, I know that it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but it can be done. And that seems to be going nicely. It's a bit of a struggle to get it round the corner in particular, but it's doing quite well, better than I expected. Okay, moving on nicely. And it's easy to zoom just along the straight edges because everything just goes without any hassle. It's when you get to the corners that it's a bit more difficult, and you just have to be that extra careful and go as slow as you can. There is no rush. Just take your time and make sure that you get every single thing right. And again, we're at the next curve, so we're just going to go nice and slow, and hopefully we should get that one done too. Not too much of a fuss. Looking good. Like I said, slow. Oh no, you won't believe this. My bobbin thread ran out, so I'm going to go for a break now, and I shall be back and we'll continue. Change my bobbin and then we'll continue. See you soon. Sorry about that snafu. Bobbin thread changed and I've given it a stern talking to, so it should behave now. And we shall continue sewing down the gussets to the outer main. Okay, second curve now, and battling with it as I would expect to. But it has really behaved a lot better than I would expect. And I shall not say everything is going hunky-dory yet, because that was what I said before the bobbin thread ran out. So, being cautiously optimistic, here we go. And that seemed to have done fed better than I expected, which is pretty good. Brilliant. So if you've got to swivel your fabric or your product for any reason while you're sewing, always make sure you have your needle in the down position so you don't lose your position and then you have sort of like a gap, a shift in your sewing. And be careful that when you're manipulating the fabric, you do not put too much pressure on the needle so that the needle does not snap in the process. I'm sure, like me, everybody loves straight edges. And we will just whiz through those ones. While we go around the curves nice and carefully. And I'm sure some people would have tips on how to sew curves and how to make it a lot easier. Like I said, I just snip the curves, and that sort of eases the fabric right round. But if there are any other tips out there that anybody has, please be free to share them with us. Thank you. Just one more curve to go, and hopefully everything has sewn down properly and looks okay on the right side, because I am checking. We've gone round the last curve, and now the whole one. For yourself if you've really done that all the way around. Goodness gracious, my hands hurt. But I shall be back soon. We've done one side of it, and we've sewn all around the gussets. Now we're going to apply the same principle to the other side of the bag. And to do that, make sure that all your edges, the curves are clipped, and try and make sure that the straps are out of the way as well, so that they don't get into what you're doing and you don't stitch them up by mistake. So we're going to pin all of this as round as well, and then take them to the machine and sew. And one other important thing that you need to do is the zipper. Make sure you open the zipper up fully and completely at this stage. Before you sew the other side on, make sure you have the zipper fully opened. So we're going to go ahead, open up the zipper, and then attach the bag front, the bag back that has the straps on, attach it to the gusset as well. We're going to do that now. So I've clipped that to submission again. So we're now going to go around and sew around the edge, completely closing the whole thing up. And that's the reason why we had to open up the zipper completely, so we can turn the bag out that way when we have to do it. So once this is done, this is one of the most difficult parts in my opinion, but once it's done, we're almost done. So let's go to our sewing machines and get sewing. And to make life a lot easier, sew the same way you sewed the other side, with the back down on your machine and sewing all the way around. And we sew nice and slow. It's when you get to the curves, remember, try and go slowly, no rush, and ease your fabric through gently. Try not to break a needle in the process. If you're using foam, you'll find out it's a lot easier to get this bit done because the foam is a lot squishier than the Decoville, so you should be able to go easy and nice and slowly round to be able to squish your fabric down, your fabric down and sew right through. But with me, I've got to do the extra bit of manipulating the fabric and everything and making sure it all works well together. So it might take me a slightly bit longer to get round, but eventually it will happen. Okay, get into the next one now. And this time I checked my bobbin thread, though I know I should not be out of bobbin thread, but I checked anyway all the same because you just never know with these things. And while we're still sewing round, please make sure you've opened up your zipper because I know that it's something that can easily be overlooked. Make sure the zipper, the one at the top, the one, either the double one or the single one you've used, you've opened it all the way. You can see all my clips just going scattering on the floor in the next few seconds. So done. just get that a bit more, a bit smoother, and then sew right over. Like I said, slow and steady. That's what we want, so we can get to the end all together at the same time, and we can breathe a sigh of relief. If you're having any issues with this bit, please ask and let us see what we can do to assist. That's what we're here for. So if you were thinking of using heavier fabric, or if you were thinking of using leather or anything like that to make this backpack, you're going to face almost the same problems as I have faced using Decoville today. So though the bulk is not too much, but when it comes to the zip tabs, sewing them down and stop stitching them, and having to sew around and ensuring that you're able to manipulate the fabric properly, you're going to have bits and pieces of issues there, but all in all, it's not been too bad so far. And my machine has been able to cope with it, which is also really brilliant. Because I did not want to break out the other semi-industrial one I have, but this is just a regular home one, and it's worked. Well, I call it a regular home sewing machine. Some people will not agree with me on that, but it does the work, and I enjoy using it. So that's the other side sewn on, and as you can see, we've not cut the lining in any way. It's all still all by itself, and the whole bag is all sewed in. So that is really good. If you've come this far, it's really brilliant and well done. And the last bit we now have to do is complete the lining, and then put everything together, and we should be done. So now we're going to start looking at finishing off the lining and the pockets, the lining pockets, and the slip pocket that goes into the lining as well. So I'll go gather my materials, and we're going to get a start on that as well. So hopefully we should be all finished today. To work on the lining, and you have your lining, just take one piece of your lining, and you need the other zipped pocket, the second L one. We only used one when we made the outer. So the second zipped pocket, you want to take that, and you want to place it about 4 inches from the bottom of your lining fabric. So measure 4 inches from the bottom of your lining and centralize your pocket over the lining piece, right sides together. So center 4 inches from the bottom and pin in place. Just pin around all 4 edges just so it doesn't move and it doesn't shift and it doesn't get in the way of anything you want to do either. Next, we're going to measure 6 inches. Next, we're going to measure 6 inches from the bottom of the pocket upwards, 6 inches. And from the 6 inches, we're going to draw a box, which is going to be the length of our zipper. That's the second zipper that we need to attach. So I know my zipper is 8 inches. So I'm going to, so 6 inches from the bottom of the piece L, which is the zipped pockets. Draw a line that is at least 8 inches, making sure that it is centered as well. So we're going to draw a line. And then we're going to draw the height of that line to be 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to connect it at the top, just like we did for the main body pockets, the hidden pockets we did for the main body. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line right down the center of it, but not, it doesn't touch the edges. So it's just going to be right in the center, and you leave a little space before you get to the end. And that little space is where we'll draw sort of like lines to form a triangle. I'll show you that. But since we already did this before, you should have an idea what it's supposed to look like. So it's meant to look like that. I'll get closer if that helps any. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew all around the outer box. And once that has been done, we'll go on to the next step, which is cutting through the line we drew in the middle and into the triangles, but making sure we do not snip into our stitch lines that we sewed all the way around. So we're going to get started and get that sorted. You can see we've sewn round the box that we made using matching threads, so it might not be too clear. And what we're going to do now is we're going to snip right down the center. And I just use my seam ripper to pierce the first hole. And then this is going to be a lot easier than when we created the zipper pocket for the outer fabric, because the outer fabric was a lot thicker than this one. but with this one it's a lot easier. And you just snip to the tip of the triangle there, and then you snip sideways into the corners. And please make sure you do not snip into your stitches in any way. I'm actually going to try snipping into it one day, not today, one day, and see what I can do to fix it, even if it can be fixed at all. Because I've never tried to snip through it before. I've always been a good girl. So carefully snip into those corners and as close as you can. And once you have that done, you can steam all the stitches before you even turn them at all. Steam them with your iron, take it to the ironing table, and steam the four sides. So by that I mean steam there, steam, turn the bottom bit up, steam, turn the other bit up, steam, and just steam all around the four stitches before you begin to turn them. And we're almost there. And voila. So that is going to be a lot easier to turn around and everything. So like I said, if you would like to steam, this would be the best time to steam. And what I was trying to explain was you steam there, you steam there, you steam there, and you steam there as well. So I shall, now that's the bottom and that's the top. So I'll just turn that through. And then I'm going to go to the ironing board and press that nice and easy. So that has really gone even a lot better than the front, the main one we did, but because it's just all fabric, quilting cotton. So I'll go press that into place and then we'll come and attach the zipper to it. That has been ironed, and that has been the quickest and fastest ironing I've done in the past 2 days. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to position the zipper onto the lining fabric. So you place your zipper down and you put your lining piece over the zipper, making sure the zipper teeth, you can see them, you can see the teeth through the lining, just like that. And you can either use pins to hold your zipper down, or you can use double-sided tape to hold it down. And if you're using leather or any other thing like that, some people use glue, different people use different things, but whatever works for you, use that to hold down your zipper in place. And I always pin, and I pin down my zipper, and then I will change my sewing foot from the zipper foot from the regular foot to a zipper foot, and then we'll sew the zipper in place. I try to pin reasonably, but not too much, but at the same time not too little, so the zipper does not move. one last one on the edge, just to hold the edge pieces. If you haven't sort of like joined them together, I just use a pin to hold them together while I sew. Sometimes it's not necessary, sometimes it is, but I just like holding them down. Zipper foot attached. And then I just sew all the way round. Okay, almost done. If you get to your zipper pull and you find out that your zipper is not going to go right past it, or it's going to shift slightly out away from your sewing length, with your needle down, lift your presser foot, move the zipper pull out of the way, and then continue sewing. So drop your zipper foot and start sewing again. Drop your zipper foot and start sewing again, and it should all go okay. But I've not had to do that because I use a foot with a tapered end, so it just easily goes right beside the zipper. And that is it, nicely done. And the next thing we're going to do now is we turn our fabric, the lining, to the wrong side, and we take the top part of the zipper pocket and bring it down to meet the bottom part, and we're going to sew around all the three edges of that. Yep, and we're going to sew through all the three edges, so, and enclose it completely. The reason why I was just verifying there was to make sure that we were not turning anything through the zipper pocket, and we needed to keep a little bit of it open. So we're going to be sewing all the way around, and I shall change my foot again. Okay, and make sure you don't catch your lining when you're sewing round. So we're just going to sew that now 3/8 of an inch all the way round. And when you're turning round the corners or anything, make sure your needle is still in the down position. And the zipper pocket is attached. As you can see, nicely attached. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the slip pocket, which is M. So we're going to take our piece M, put this one aside. We're almost done now. So we're going to take our piece M, we're going to fold it in half and right sides together. And we're going to sew around 3 sides, but we're going to leave 3 inches, an opening of 3 inches or thereabouts, or bigger, 3 or bigger, depends on you. And then we're going to sew on 3 sides, so there, and then we're going to turn through the little hole there. So when you get to the opening, the 3-inch opening, I always backstitch when I get there, and then start again on the other side. And then sew right down to the end of the other side. So we're going to trim the seam so that when we turn it over, it's going to be nice and crisp. So just snip off part of the seam there and snip off part of the seam there, and I snip off part of the seam there as well, but I don't snip it all the way around to where the opening is. And then we're going to turn it right side out, and then we're going to take it to the ironing station, and we're going to iron it, and we'll be right back. And now we have placed our pockets, our slip pockets, and that's the opening. But on the folded end, not this is where the opening is, but on the other side of it, the where we folded, we're going to top stitch, and then we're going to attach the slip pocket on the same lining as we attach the zippered pocket. Now, please ensure that you move your zippered pocket out of the way to do this so that it doesn't get caught when you're attaching the slip pocket. So we're going to top stitch the slip pocket now, and then we're going to attach it to our lining piece. So we've top stitched now, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to place the slip pocket on the lining fabric 2 inches from the bottom. So I grab my trusty ruler, find the center of my slip pocket, and 2 inches from the bottom. And pin in place. Remember to move the zippered pocket away from the back of the slip stitch before you stitch together, or before you even pin the slip pocket to it, so that you don't catch it when you're sewing. So try and ensure it's completely out of the way. So what I've done is I've just moved it all the way to the top and pinned it, well, clipped it out of the way. And then we're going to sew the 3 sides of the slip pocket. In so doing, we're going to close the opening, the turning opening that we left. And that should be facing downwards anyway. The top stitch part should be next to the zipper, and then we sew down the 3 edges. And if you would like to put a divider in your slip pocket, you can do that as well. And back stitch when you start and finish. So my zipper pocket is not in the way. And then the other side. and it's been stitched in place. The slip pocket and the turning hole has been sewn shut. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to finish off the lining, and then we're going to attach the lining to the bag outer that we've already done. So I'll go get all my pieces together and be right back. To attach the lining, both linings, we're going to attach it to the bag outer. And to do that, what we're going to do is make sure your bag outer is with the wrong side facing outwards, and on the zipper gusset, pull one of the gussets right over the zipper like that, and pull it over to the other side, sort of going over and across the whole thing. So that's that from this side, this gusset is coming right over everything to this other side. Then you take your lining piece and you match it to, and you attach it to the gusset piece. Now remember, you're working across the zipper, so you're using the gusset that's on the other side of the zipper, and you're attaching your lining to that gusset. So the parts of the main body that's facing you, which is the back part of it that's facing you, should be under the gusset, the zipper gusset, as you go all the way around it. So try and keep it out of the way and push it out of the way as you clip the lining to the gusset lining piece as well. And when you get to the sides, make sure you push the side in so you can continue working on the lining. Make sure your lining is not twisted or anything, and just keep pinning all the way around. And keep pushing the main body, the main bag body, keep pushing it into the lining piece. Just keep pushing it out of the way so that you can keep on clipping round your lining piece. And we're going to go on and clip all the way around. And once we've done that, then we're going to go to our sewing machine and we're going to sew all of that down. We have sort of put clips all the way around it, And what we're going to do is with this, with the gusset side, that's the lining side where the lining actually is, down on our sewing machine, we're going to sew round completely all the way round. And we'll go to the machine and start sewing. And I shall have to contend with my bulk. 3/8 of an inch. If you've stayed with us this far, you've really come a very long way, and you've really done well. Go nice and slow. There's no rush. We're almost done now. So we really want to make sure that after all that hard work, we just don't do the wrong thing by trying to rush and finish it. It might be tight in a few places, but like I said, go nice and slow. we're now at the gusset, because I started at the bottom, so I'm now about halfway. Because of the bulk, yeah, it's a bit difficult turning around the corners, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. Be careful whatever you do that you don't snap your needle. And we're sewing round nicely, and I'm concentrating so hard because I really don't want to make a mistake at this stage. the last stretch. Phew, that was tough. Okay, so that's the lining sewn on, and then what you need to do is you need to flip the lining over the bag and onto the other side. So it's now, so you now have the lining facing the proper way. So once you've sewn the lining, you now need to flip it and flip it over the other side to the other side. And then you have that, which is your lining, nicely over your bag. So now we have to do the other side as well. So now we have to do this side as well, and we'll have to stitch it all down, and we need to sort of put clips all around it and then sew it all down again. So I shall go clip that and I will be back. So I've pinned the second lining onto the bag outer, and when you're placing your second lining, the one that's got the pocket, make sure that you're pinning it upside down. So if the zipper is at that end, then make sure that the pockets are facing downwards. So that's where the zipper is, and that's where your pockets should be facing downwards as you clip them all round. And leave a big opening at the end, at least 8 inches, because we're going to be turning through that as well. So now we're going to go and we're going to stitch right around that and carry on with the next steps. Stitching round, when you get to where you're leaving your opening, the start and the end of the 8-inch opening, back stitch a couple of times so you can, it's really reinforced, because the whole bulk of that bag is going to be coming out from there, and we don't want that to tear in anyway. So back stitch as much as you can. Around the other side of the lining and all the way back. And one thing we're going to do now is the very top where the zipper is, we're going to pinch together the seam allowance, and we're just going to sew along that top edge within the seam allowance that we've already made, 1/8 of an inch, just so the top of it does not sag. So we're just going to go to a machine now, and we're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch within the seam allowance from the edge, from the curved corners all the way around, so that the bag does not, so that the top of it does not sag when it's all completed and done. So go ahead and pin, and then we're going to stitch within the seam we've already done. We're just going to stitch within that 1/8 of seam, 1/8 of an inch. And once we've done that, we're going to turn our bag through from the hole we left at the bottom of the second lining we sewed up. We left an 1/8 inch space, so we're going to turn the bag through using that space. Almost done now. So now we're going to birth our bag, and we're going to do that through this lovely hole here that we left. And I hope you backstitched the opening a few times, because when we're doing this, tendencies are, because of the bulk of the bag, it could rip apart. So we're just going to do that carefully and pull it through. So we're going to see the hard work we've been doing and all the effort we've been putting into it. We're going to see it bear fruit. Now, if you're using thick fabric and everything, just do it bit at a time, bit at a time. Don't try and get every single thing through at once. And eventually it will come out the other end. And voila. It's looking good. It's looking nice. It's been birthed nicely. And it wasn't even as tough as I thought it was going to be. So you can iron this if you want, to make sure everything is nice and everything is smoothened out properly. I'm just pushing in every single thing from the outer fabric. I'm just pushing it all into the lining at the moment. As you can see there. So we have it, and it is nicely birthed. So what we're going to do now to finish off is we're going to close up this hole, the birthing hole. So sometimes all I just do is just stitch across it, and sometimes I use a zigzag stitch, and it all depends on how you want it to look once it's done. So just let's go ahead and actually I'm going to press that down to get the holes properly lined up, to get the hole properly lined up and all these seams in properly, and then I'll come back and do the final sew. The seam allowances in, and then I'm just going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch that down to close the hole completely. Some people might prefer to do a slip stitch or, you know, close it up by hand, but whatever method you like best, please use that to close up the bag. And once the bag has been closed up, we have just one more strap, the crossbody strap, to complete. And once we've done that, we're just going to, because it's going to be attached with lobster claws, it's fine. We can just quickly sew that down and we'll be done. So I've sewn that down, and I've managed not to catch the outer piece, which is great. And then we turn the bag through again to the right side. And just like magic, a 3-day magic show, your bag is done. So now we're just going to finish off and complete the strap, which goes on these buckles, and then we're going to look at the finished product and admire our handiwork. So before I make that all nice and proper and everything, we'll just grab the handle and quickly go through the handle. Yeah. So the very last piece is the crossbody strap, and we're going to make that the way we made all the other straps as well. So we're going to fold in half, and because this is a long piece, you might want to do that in front of the with the iron, because it's because of its length. But I just normally crease, and okay, that's not in your way. So what I normally do is I crease and then needle and then fold again, and I do that as I go along all the way down. Please feel free to use the iron. but this goes way faster for me. Oh gosh, my silly heater has a mind of its own. It comes on when you don't expect it to come on. There. So we're just getting to the end. And the thing is, once you've done a few of these, you have your own method of really going fast and getting them done. And this is my method of getting it done pretty quickly. And there you have your strap done. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take care of the edges, which we do by turning the edges back on themselves like that. And we're going to sew down there. And we do that at the other end as well. So we'll take it to the machine and do a quick sew. Need to change thread. And voila. So then we do the other side as well. And when you've done that, you want to snip off some of the seam allowance and then turn it to the right side. Then we're going to top stitch all along the sides. And then we're going to top stitch around the 4 sides. Almost done. Okay, top stitching all done, and then we're going to use the rest of our hardware to finish up. And first things first, trim off all the thread and check if there's any hanging around anywhere there. Trim it all off nicely. Okay, once it's all trimmed off, then we need to begin to create the crossbody strap. Got our hardware, and we're going to start off by threading the tri-glide through the strap we've just created. So go ahead and thread that through and pull it through about 1 inch, and then you secure that. has been secured, remember to snip off any excess thread. Don't give up now. You're practically finished. The difficult part has all been done. So the next bit is to pull through your claw hook. So you thread the other end of the strap through your claw hook, and then make sure that the folded over edge of your strap is facing upwards when you thread through your claw hook. Then take the other end and pass it into the tri-glide again over the first one that you already stitched down, and then you pull it through, and then you pass it through the other claw hook at the other end. And then you're going to stitch that down again to the other side here. And then you're going to stitch that down about 1 inch again. And then we will attach our bag to, then we're going to attach the strap to the bag. And our crossbody strap is completed, and thus completes the making of the bag as well. So you can now attach that to your bag. And you can give your bag a very good press at this point. Press it, make sure it's all nice and in shape. Snip off any threads you can see coming out from anywhere that you don't want it to come up from or be at. And just like that, your bag is all done and ready to go. So I shall have this properly pressed and looking nice and good, and take some pictures and put them out on the website. Like I said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Do not hesitate to send us a message. And I really would like to say a big thank you to every single person that has been part and parcel of this so long. It's my first one, and I've learned a lot from having to do this. It's been a steep learning curve, but I've thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. And I would not lie to you, it is tiring. I never ever thought it could be this tiring, but it's been a lot of fun. And I would just like to say thank you again, and hope to see you at the next so long. Thank you, and have a lovely day. Bye bye.